Welcome to File New. My name's Ryan Selvey, and this is your source for creator and designer news, all industry updates, and everything to keep you up to date with the constantly changing creative world. Today we have a bunch of rebrands and resources, industry updates, among a bunch of other things. If you're watching this, that means that you are watching the unedited live replay, or you're watching it live. Thank you everyone for your patience and for being here. Hello to everyone in the chat. I know we are working on limited time now, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to hop straight on into our first segment where we talk a little bit about an old logo. So welcome to File New. Oh, looks like my transitions didn't work. So da-da-da. We're having some technical difficulties today. All right. So this is the logo for today for Logo Zero. Logo Zero is taking a look at a logo that is a original logo from a very well-known company that you probably are familiar with, but you might not recognize their first logo. So we're going to be going through this, and we're going to experiment with how much we kind of put it throughout the show. But this is a circle. It looks like it has two geometric symbols on the inside, or maybe it's a T. It's fully circular, and it was first used in the year 1950. So this is a company that's been around for about 80 years, and 85, I guess, or 84. And it started with this circular logo. Before we even hop into it, I'm curious, does anyone already know the logo? So I'm going to start a poll asking, does anyone already know the logo? And you guys can go ahead and vote and go on it. I'm already seeing some guesses in the chat. I'm also seeing we love some improv transitions. Yeah, so you'll just have to kind of bear with me as we go. Now we have a bunch to get through. All of this is going to be available on the Raindrop, but let's go and hop over into our first brand, which is our first segment, which is Rebrand, which naturally didn't pop up. So I'm going to go ahead and drag these in as we go. We're doing it live, folks. So here we go. For our very first story, let's talk a little bit about the Lidl logo. This is an easy, feel-good story. This is kind of making the rounds on the internet. As you can see here with TikTok, a bunch of people with all the same singular confused face, and someone pointed out that the Lidl logo has a dog playing a piano in it. Which actually is kind of the vibe of the entire thing that we're going on here. So if you're not familiar with Lidl, Lidl is a grocery store brand. They're actually rapidly growing. They're opening hundreds of stores in the US this year. And this is their official logo, L-I-D-L. They have this little eye that's on its side, and it's kind of balancing the dot on the top. Now, the thing that's been circulating the internet this week is that if you start to look at it and you see a dog playing a piano, then you can't kind of unsee it. So I'm going to draw on top of it here, and we've got the piano here, right? So this would be where the keys are. I'm just going to vaguely draw this. We can change this to black. Black. Cool. Add a little moment there. Yes, I want black, please. Please give me black. Let's go. There we go. Look at here. And then if you look here, this is the dog. So you've got like a little fluffy tail. You've got maybe his feet. And then we're going to do this with a little guy. We'll give him little eyeballs. And so now everyone sees that, and they say they can't unsee it, right? That's a horrible dog. Well, maybe if I had a little nose to him like this, it looks him a little cuter, right? A little smiley face. give him a little. I feel like I'm playing Pictionary with you guys, except nobody is calling out the answer. We could even give him another thing. Give him a little belly. But people are saying that they're seeing that, and it's making its rounds. That's pretty much it. I think it's interesting. I see Oliver saying, I see a ball knocking a chair over, which also could very well be a thing. So if we look at that, we could see that this be the chair the ball kind of bouncing off and going off. Wade also says that he can see that as well. And Jacob Paris is saying it's like a sandwich. Water, sports drink, and a pack of cookies was like 5.5 euro. Oh, because you just got to a European Lidl, and you cannot believe how much cheaper it was than in the States. Yeah, but did you see the dog while you were over there? Sean also says, looks like my doodle. But then moving on, we're going to have our next branding story. Our next branding story is one that I'm like debating whether or not I make a video about this, because Charm City Run is a local Maryland, Rehoboth Beach lifestyle store. They actually have one in my hometown. And for the longest time, they had this logo that is essentially what I always read it as, even though this isn't the shape of Baltimore. I always read it as like maybe city streets of sorts, and maybe this was like potentially representing the Inner Harbor. They recently got a rebrand, and I do not like it. It is a purple simplified sans serif word mark with a little circular R. Apparently, according to the release video, it is a circular motif that goes around the actual sole of the shoe, which is the old logo. They're using it as a means to then have that R be their only signifier and kind of an icon. They're also stacking it when they're using it on their website. I have their Charm City rebrand video as well that they have also introduced it with. And something that I'm really running into here is it feels like if they already had such a big presence in Baltimore City for their look, like maybe it wasn't the best and most beautiful logo. I will honestly, yeah, the shoe was not great. That said, it was very, see, the pusher, this is weird. They're hopping in front of things. I also don't like it when it's like here's to the runners, the bibas, the dibibas. I'm like, that feels way too like 2010s to me. So they're building it in, they're having it. I feel bad for criticizing it because I do know it's a small business, and they do good for the city. But I feel like maybe they should revisit the Charm City Run. Even if it was just to like remove this icon here and change it. I'm also surprised they got rid of the star. I feel like the star with the blue, at least in Baltimore circles, was pretty recognizable when you saw it. I also don't think a lot of current companies have type like this, so it would be really nice to maybe kind of stick to that. It feels very thin and tall. It feels kind of like, you know, Art Deco with maybe kind of the obsession also with trains and locomotives and things that are chugging along. So I think if they could have leaned into that, that could have been something. Dino says that it looks like a Planet Fitness now. Oliver says goes around the sole, sounds like something they made up later to explain it. That's what I was saying. A friend of mine I was talking to him about it, and I was saying, yeah, it reminds me of like being in art school and when I was like sweating through some crits and I had to come up with something, and then it doesn't. The other issue that he brought up when he sent it to me was that it also has a striking resemblance actually to Retail Me Not, which is one of those coupon websites that you can go and like search for a bunch of coupons that don't work on any websites. But it feels relatively similar to that. I know they're just like script or with R's, but they're also relying on the R. They're also relying on a type of purple. And it also, to me, looks a little bit like a cheap dog walking company. It just doesn't hit the way that I want it to. Zonafly saying it's okay, but it loses a lot of charm, and a question who their target audience is now. It feels very corporate now versus charming small business. And Wade says, of course, I also have to agree. So it's a shame. Maybe they can finesse it and they can revisit it. I don't think it's enough to, you know, like freak out about it. I'm not gonna like cyberbully them. Like I said, I don't even know if I'm gonna make a video about it because I would feel awful. But not a great rebrand. So sounds like you guys are in the same place. Sounds like, and I don't know if whoever's voting in the vote here, they said, do you know already know this logo. Just for your reference, we're talking about this logo, by the way. This is the original one from 1950. The first resemblance of today's logo was introduced in 1975. So this means for about 25 years exactly, they had a logo that was not very recognizable and does not reflect what we have today. I also will take the moment to also show the original product was this thing. And I'm not even going to tell you what it is, but this was the original product that they sold when they first started the company. And now they sell something that you definitely use, but, you know, it goes. We have more rebrands for you, though. Please do not lose faith. We have one that I made a video about, and we're going to hop into that, and I will show you guys. Because this one has about like 40 stories blended into one, and actually so much so that maybe I'll just kind of drag these in one by one so that it's better organized. But the first thing that we're going to do... by the way, has anyone already watched this video? I posted it this morning. Well, actually posted it on my YouTube yesterday. But has anyone already seen this? Raise your hand if you've already seen this. If not, we're in for a treat. And I will have you guys check it out. And I will let myself do the talking. So here we go. Oh, maybe I have to reload it. I did have to turn off hardware acceleration for something. And today it's just Murphy's Law, right? Like it's just... when it rains, it pours. So the new Warner Brothers animation should just be these last 6 seconds. But revisit Cocomelon and Tweety Belle, because this smooth, shiny version is missing one thing that the character's famous for. Let's rewind. I'm Ryan Selvey, and I cover design and creator news. We start off with a circle wipe into Burbank, which is iconically Looney Tunes. The sketch animation feels good, it's representing the first step of any project, but then it melts into a confusing gouache frame, like maybe step 2. But this reminds me of Springfield, not Warner Brothers. And we're introduced to a very 3D Tweety. Wonder if like bugs had scheduling conflicts. But then things get weirder. It morphs into this unownable golden hour. Why do you think this diner is here? It feels too specific to be nothing. And then one last morph brings us into the classic 3D backlot from the official bumper. You can actually see LA in the background here, and the sun peeks through the buildings and melts it into that iconic golden ripple. And the best part is right here. The gold shield dissolves into a cartoon with gorgeous red pops of color on the undersides. These clouds also spatially dolly back and add a really great depth. But then when Tweety Bird swoops in for the reveal, that's not giving Warner Brothers, it's Disney. And here's the iconic part that they're missing. He flies in way too smooth. Brand language is bigger than the sum of its parts. Animation and motion design live in things like speed ramps and smears. Looney Tunes was built on squash and stretch. The smears are part of their DNA. Without it, this bumper isn't a bad one, but it looks like it could be anybody's, not uniquely Warner Brothers. Follow for more. So what do we think? Have you guys actually even seen the video for the animation? Not my video, but just the animation reveal. Basically, this was announced at this gigantic animation festival that is the most prestigious of its kind. And they came on stage to really kind of save face after having a really weird couple of years. They're trying to now turn the page. The festival is called Annecy, by the way, Annecy Animation Film Festival. And basically, they had this big issue where they were, for the longest time, actually had 2 different shows or movies that they canceled when they went to actually get it in production. You guys might remember Coyote vs. Acme. It is a cartoon that kind of feels like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It has Looney Tunes characters in the space of human characters, so they're acting alongside flat 2D counterparts. They added a little bit more 3D a little bit to them, but still kept true to the 2D nature of the aesthetic. And you can even see here that they're doing the crazy proportions. They're doing squash and stretch and moving things around in this movie that is now coming out in August. For the longest time, it was supposed to come back years ago, but then they canceled it. And they also had something that was like the world exploded, the day the world exploded. But when looking at the intro itself, I was kind of underwhelmed by the choices that they made in several different factors. I do enjoy this one, but it does, like I said, it reminds me of The Simpsons, and also I think that it could have been a step towards having a step process into building an animation out. But as soon as they move over to this, it kind of derails. Then they get back to this, which is iconic, so I feel good that we get back to that, but it feels a little disjointed. I also don't understand why the water tower itself changes shape. If you watch it back, you can see that it has some weird morphing in it, and I'm not sure what's going on with that. I don't know if that was just like a puppet warp or if it was potentially AI. I don't know, but it has a really weird vibe to it, and I think that there is a lot to be improved upon. But like I said, I really, really enjoyed this kind of wipe into having it start with the original iconic one and then moving over to a nice cartoon version. I like having the little cartoon shading as well on the underside of the red. And then I also am glad that they still kept the realistic background in the same way that they have the realistic humans in the Coyote movie, because I like to have that kind of connection and bringing it into the real world and having animation, because it also really helps make some of those colors pop. Also, hello to Alessandro, who's here. And Clever says, is House of Mouse going to come for them? Yeah, for the for Tinkerbell, right? Like, now, did that remind anybody else of Tinkerbell? Also, I'm going to end this poll. I'm going to have a very important poll, actually, in the chat. And this is going to be, do you think that, or do you mistake Tweety for a girl? Because even when I was going to make this, in my brain, I always just think of Tweety Bird as a girl. And so when I was going through and looking into research and stuff, I remembered that Tweety is a boy. And so I said it in the video, and I was like, it still feels weird. It still feels weird. Now, like I said, there are a bunch of stories in this story. One being also that there is a new slate coming up of all these different things that are coming out. We have Cat in the Hat coming out later this year. You have Bad Fairies, Margie Claus, The Places You'll Go, Dynamic Duo, Hello Kitty, and the Lunar Chronicles. So that's over the next 2 years, because 2 years will be in 2028. And they are bringing these different styles and different stories to the silver screen. The thing that they really want to focus on, according to their press conference, was that they want to be on a creator-led new chapter. So they want to really focus on the idea of having people come in with different styles, different stories, and putting them at the forefront to kind of sell what they're working on. Now, the reason that this is also really big is because they have somebody coming off of this other YouTube series. This is not the YouTube series that it's coming off of, but basically there is this one called Prehistoria that's coming out, and this is going to be from the creator of Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss, which are extremely popular YouTube animated series. And you might say, like, well, that's interesting because we're doing that. We talked 2 or 3 weeks ago about Backrooms getting to the movies. We talked about the idea of Obsessed also being a YouTube creator. Animation is also having its own thing. And so The Amazing Digital Circus is a different creator, but it actually cracked the top 5 worldwide box office releases when they did a limited release of this part of their animated series in theaters. So it's just this thing where all of these studios are suddenly being like, wait a second. Like, these creators are having these gigantic million people followers. If we then take them and elevate them to a feature film, it will actually also bring in the money. It'll also bring in the people. Of course, there are also instances where that didn't happen, where like Ryan's World, that toy child that used to be #1 for all of YouTube, when they tried to do a movie, they spent $10 million on making it, and it made less than $1 million, so it was like a $9 million loss or something. But it's interesting. The tides are changing. Things are moving. The way things find success are different. And if you really like a creator and you see that they are growing, there is chance that that might turn into something else, which is very interesting. And we'll see how WB also navigates this, if they end up still canceling things at the end. Jacob saying, it's almost like when you give people with cult followings and genuine ideas funding, they do well. That's unheard of. That's unheard of. You're thinking crazy. P-Dub saying that their bedroom was Tweety Bird and they didn't know until they were grown up that she was a boy. Yes. And Wade is also saying that WB also demolished a historic backlot to sell the land. Odd decisions lately, but mergers and all. Yes, I also don't know how this all gets affected with mergers and things that are going on. Believe it or not, because we kind of got a late start, we are halfway through our show. If you're just joining us, this is for designers and creators and artists, anybody alike who is interested in the creative world, and we just go over some industry news and some rebrands. We've looked at some other logos, and we have about, I think, one more story for our rebrands before we then hop into our next segment, which is our news industry segment. So this one, I'm going to piecemeal it because I want to make sure I do not steal all of their hard work. But this is coming from Pimp My Type, and it's FIFA's World Cup Typography Foul UI Design Learnings. And this is looking at the World Cup. I've been meaning to make a video actually about the World Cup and the brand assets and how it's working. The crux of their argument here, though, is actually a critical one where they're saying that the type that they have used is not successful. There is a difference between what you create when you're creating a poster or when you're creating something that is a visual interest, but as soon as you get into infographics and scoreboards and things that need to display information that can be easily digested, that's when you have to approach it differently. So their big call out is that it looks great in branding, it looks great visually, but when it comes to the actual scoreboard and portraying information, it is coming up short. We have this breakdown of what they're using for each. Open Sans Bold is obviously a great, easy one that is openly accessible, Open Sans, but then they're also using this condensed font for different pieces of work. It says the scoreboard is pairing these two, and it says that they don't think that it is working. It says that the letters are very tight and squarish. The inner shapes tend to disappear. This makes them harder to distinguish, and tricodes for countries are not always that obvious, which to a point, though, is also a cultural shortcoming, not necessarily a design shortcoming, because they also have the flag, right? I've seen this kind of brought up several times in many different places. They're like, oh, well, it doesn't really make sense with the country tricodes, and I'm like, but those are the tricodes. Those are what they are. Like you can't just expect them not to use those, and then like that's on you for not knowing them. Like I don't necessarily know, that I couldn't tell you that RSA stands for South Africa. I would think it stands for Russia, but that's also kind of in response to like that's what they are. And then they're saying flags next to it help, but not everyone knows them either. So like I don't know if you want them to fully write out the entire thing, but then all different countries have different lengths. And then it says this will be seen on a variety of screens and resolutions, so it should be as legible as possible. If you go to the link that is in the raindrop, that will be in the description. I can also go ahead and actually plop it in here now because I don't know if it's already in the description. I'll put the raindrop in here. Also, if you want to cheat and look ahead to see the different types of stuff we're going to talk about, you can do that. But if you go in there, Pimp My Type actually has a solution, and they show what they would change and how they would improve it. So definitely give them a click so that they get some of the web traffic and read a little bit more about a little bit more of their learnings and how that is improved. Let's take one more look at logo 0, and then we can see what we've got going on in the news industry. So, country of origin. Speaking of that, guys, do you know what country this is? I feel like this has to be one of the most famous ones, right? Do you guys know which one this is? Also, Jack is saying that RSA probably stands for the Republic of South Africa, which is very true. Probably. And so this is coming from Japan, which makes it not a big surprise when it is called this wonderful name. And I will tell you guys what it translates to in just a little bit. But first, we're going to go ahead and we're going to hop on over into the news. So let's check it out. For our news, we've got a bunch of different stories. This show is on Adobe Live, and they give me pretty much full reign on what I can produce, what I can talk about. But they will ping me and they will say, "Hey, Ryan, like this is coming out. Can you please mention it?" This is one of those things. They said, "Hey, we're really excited about this. Could you please include it in File New?" I said, let me check it out. I looked into it. Looks great. So absolutely. This is the new updates that they announced that are all AI assistants that are there to save you time. So this is not necessarily things that are generating imagery or artwork for you. It's instead actually working on your process, which is something that as a creator, I have always been screaming at the top of my lungs, like, this is what I want to use it for. I don't want to necessarily use it to create something entirely and deliver it to the client without me having a lot of touch into it. I want to still be able to touch my thing, and I want to be able to go to the exact extent that I want to have any sort of interference here. So this is coming to both Premiere, it's coming to Photoshop, it's coming to Illustrator and InDesign. They're all currently in beta, which you can access publicly right now. The only one that is in private beta right now is in After Effects. So the thing that I also brought up here is that Creative Block actually reported on it, and they gave it a glowing review, and they were also very excited about it. And they were talking about how it's actually going to genuinely save you time by speeding up the process that you do not like to do. So we're talking about like organizing assets, preparing files, adapting creative for new formats, updating versions, managing feedback, getting work ready for delivery. There's also ways that you can go and you can check to make sure that things are coming through. For Illustrator, you can go and you can have it actually reference a spreadsheet file and help kind of take all that information and bring it in. There were ways of doing batch systems with that before, but it was clunky and it didn't actually understand what it was doing. It was just being like, okay, text box here, merge the two, da 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 da. This is actually taking that and being like, okay, you want this name tag, but you need to do it for 200 people. Okay, done. This is something that we kind of first saw with Photoshop with rename layers, but this takes that extra layer. It helps for you to have kind of handoff. It works almost kind of to the extent of like having a design intern and being able to work with something in co-hand. I think that there still obviously will always be a use case for an intern, because even if they can use this, then you can have them and help them elevate into a new spot. This says that InDesign can apply brand updates across layouts, including copy, styling, and print readiness checks. Illustrator can do generated version files from spreadsheet data, like I was saying. You can describe a desired outcome, such as batch background removal or asset resizing or layer organization in Photoshop. And Premiere, oh boy, Premiere can do the beautiful thing of sorting assets into bins, batch renaming clips, identifying interview questions, or even resembling a working starting point. So really just getting you there, just getting you to the point where like you get to do the thing that you are in the career field to do, right? Because at the end of the day, you're not there and having a great time renaming files. You are instead doing it because you want to be creative and you want to have control. So this is the video, if I can get it to load. I also have it on my computer. Oops, did it work? There we go. Now powering AI assistant. So it shows you it has all different ones coming. It's also has some Firefly stuff. And so it's exciting. And I'm glad that Adobe was listening to the idea of people saying like, okay, I don't want to use AI for this, but it would be cool if it did this. And I feel like that came up in a lot of focus groups. And then it's something that they then worked with. And then you can still go in and you're still able to edit it. So I am not seeing much in the chat for here, but I did see that they love the manual transitions. I'm seeing there's questions about some of the previous Logo Zero. So maybe we'll go back to Logo Zero real quick. For Logo Zero, I see in the chat that it's a Mitsubishi is a question, because people are saying Japan, and someone's saying, is that original product a rice cooker? Now, it translates to Tokyo Telecommunications Engineering Corporation. And so then I'm seeing in the chat that Jack is saying the product looks like an old Sony rice cooker. Pearly says Sony made rice cookers, and she said it was a failure, but yes, they did. And guess what? Jack is right. So this is actually the original Sony logo. They started with rice cookers, and it did not work out, and they kind of pivoted and went into different electronics, but they went from here over to here. And so when you're looking at Sony, just know that they've come a long way since 1950. And yeah, it's what a journey. When I would see that, I would never think that would be Sony, but that is part of our Logo Zero. So congratulations to, I believe it was to Jack Watson, who got it first. Pro listing not even close. Also, I'm seeing that Chris says that it is cool updates. The AI assistant is amazing. I'm glad to see that you've tried it out. And yeah. We've got a bunch of other news too, though. That's the only thing that they had asked me to mention. There was another piece of Adobe news that I came across that they didn't specifically ask for me to mention, but I wanted to call it out with what's new in Illustrator. And one of them being, it is the AI assistant that is part of it. But this is coming from Michael Fugoso. He is a Adobe evangelist. He posted that there is some new things like center align that's being able to go in and I'm just going to bring this in actually, like here. Being able to go in and rather than having to click 2 different buttons, you can now click just center. It's simple, it's beautiful, but it's good to have. We also have the blend tool. We reported on this a little bit ago. And it's just being able to have more control, more features, more changes that you can then apply to blending to objects along a path with their orientation, the direction, the types of them working in and out. That's the AI assistant, which we were talking about just a second ago, with being able to use things like put every group subject in its own artboard, make all the artboards, make all the artboards square, organize them accordingly. And so then it can do that and work for you. Then remove background. This is a new one. You used to have to bring something over to Photoshop in order to do this. Now you can go and you can just bring in that dog. Bring the dog with remove background. No need to hop programs. And then, of course, they have concept to vector, which they announced like 2 weeks ago, I think. And this is the idea of like bringing something in and being able to hop from just a quick sketch and then quickly vectorize it and then kind of continue your process. So thank you again to Michael Fugoso for posting that on Instagram. And let me know if you guys are interested in trying any of these new pieces of work. Jack says it feels like I'm cheating whenever I use centerline, which is really funny. Emily says centerline has done more for my relationship with Illustrator than anything else. Also, Jack says that robot was so cute. Yeah, I know. He's a really good sketcher. He does. I like seeing his work. Now we're gonna go over here. How are we doing on time? We are at 44. So I want to make sure that we also have time for our font of the week, which I know that you guys always appreciate. But there were a few more news stories that I wanted to touch on. The brand new conference is happening very soon. The early bird pricing ends June 26th. So this is, we reference brand new all the time. They're from Under Consideration, and they are constantly at the forefront of new brands and talking about design and things that are changing. This is a screenshot of the actual website for it. They have these balloons. It's actually going to take place between September 17th to 18th in Nashville. They've got really great speakers here. You may recognize a few. And it is a packed multi-day event where people are all just talking about brands. So if you register now, either online or in person, it is discounted until June 26th, which is kind of the end of this week. So let me know if you plan on going. I'm thinking about going, but I need to find other people that are going first before I go because I am a shy boy. Coming from Lucas O'Keefe, we have updates to Instagram. Instagram is adding a new commenting feature. What could go wrong? You can now leave a comment with a photo icon. If you, by clicking this photo icon, you can now leave a comment with a photo. You are able to directly import it from your camera roll. In the past, there has been a way to have GIFs, but the GIFs have only come from, searchable GIFs. It says if you don't see this option on a post, it's not because you don't have the feature, it's because the posting count doesn't have the feature yet. And this is coming from Lucas. I think this could go disastrously wrong. I don't know how they're going to censor this. I don't know how they're going to be able to navigate having like cyberbullying and explicit material and a whole bunch of stuff that they're all introducing, and for what kind of benefit, right? So I'm not entirely sure where this goes. I think that if people use it the right way, you could do some cool stuff. You could even be like, I'll redesign my thing and then have people like respond. I would much rather almost have kind of the old style of YouTube from the mid 2000s where you could have a video response to a video and it would be below so that you could then like directly respond and kind of have that back and forth. But a picture that doesn't necessarily tie to a post is very, very interesting. But we will see to go. Also, to check in our other poll, we have, do you mistake Tweety for a girl? 61% of you say yes. 39% of you say no. So, wow, 39% of you know that Tweety is a boy. That's pretty impressive. I feel like that is a higher number than I was ever anticipating. Then we have LottieFiles. This one's pretty cool. This is basically a library system coming to us from LottieFiles. LottieFiles is historically a file format that you can use to implement motion and graphics into apps seamlessly with just some code, and then you're able to kind of just plop it in or give it to the developer. They are now creating a design system library. Now, this is different from Adobe libraries because this is focusing on the idea of like curves and being able to actually take the curves of a given
most teams have a design
animation. I'm gonna mute this and be able to send it off to someone else so that it constantly kind of has the same components, it has the same pop-ups, and this works totally as a plugin that you can work actually in After Effects. So you can bring this in After Effects and you can morph things. But then if you're bringing it over people don't have to just come up with the ideas of like how things are supposed to phase in, or like if they're animated, like where, you know, the start begins and where the end begins, where you could temporalize things. And so they have created this design system library that you can now create and then share, and you're able to go from there. So check that out. It's off of Lottie, and I've done LottieFiles before, but I have not done the motion system yet. So I'm excited to see that develop over the years. Then Mocha updates. These you get Mocha directly through After Effects, actually, and it is a wonderful motion tracking. I know I really speak the praises of Object Mat, which still is great, but sometimes things get a little too complicated for Object Mat. I have not ran into that yet, especially with the recent update. But if you're getting super complicated, sometimes people like to hop into Mocha. Mocha is a very strong powerhouse, and they just upgraded it a little bit more with some different things, like some matte assist. They're increasing their power mesh. They're also letting you change the amount that you can search around an area. So if you want to increase like the horizontal search area rather than the vertical, because you know that it's maybe like panning to the side, you can do that. I mean, just look at like the understanding that it works here and being able to understand what objects are moving around and what is being impacted. They also are having a refined matte that can also be included and updated, and there's just also nudging a bunch of other things. They also, similar to Object Mat, they have that live preview now of kind of colors and being like, this is what you're gonna work out with. So that is the Mocha updates. And that is all of our news. So with that said, let's hop into Font of the Week. Will this have a transition? Probably not. All right, we have TT Cometus. We're going to actually set up a poll for this so that you guys are able to do this. Font of the Week. And the first thing that we have TT Cometus. If you're wondering what's going on here, we vote every single week on 3 different fonts, and we choose a font of the week. Then you're able to put that into your inventory. We also have a directory of past winners. So if you're ever in a tight spot and you're like, I just need to find fonts that other people also like, use it as a resource. And that is just in the raindrop. So we're going to be taking a look at all 3 of these real quick, and then we will figure out what's going on. Wade says that Mocha has saved him multiple times, which is great. You guys love the tremendous transitions. I hate them, and I'm very mad at 4 different things in my computer right now. Also, that's like saying Roadrunner is a girl. Very few girls in Warner Brothers cartoons. Is Roadrunner a boy? Is that true? I don't know. You guys want to have you want me live performing the transitions every? All right, maybe I'll even make new transitions where I sing them, but I would like it if my transitions worked. Period. So what we're gonna look at real quick is TT Cometus. This is a typeface created by Type, and let me make sure that I can pull up the actual font page for it. Now. Where did this go, my friends? This was released back in 2023, and it is a slab serif display font. So it's actually both here. And so we're going to say it's slab serif. It's a display font. With that, I would say it's definitely display. It's got 4 weights for you. And for the description for all the type designers out here, TT Cometus is a high contrast, heavy display slab serif utilizing hyper exaggerated bracketless serifs, severe structural ink traps, and a massive X height optimized for high impact display environments. So the X height is where the top of the lowercase letters get to, or like the top of an X. If it is higher, you will feel like all of the type has its kind of shoulders up. So a description for everybody else is that it is a chunky, super bold font with thick, blocky feet that commands attention on the logos and posters. And yeah, especially with that, if everything is really heightened, the bottom needs to have balance. So in this case, they have these really strong feet that go across the bottom. You can see it here as the pangram. This is pangram is just when you use all the letters in a sentence. Ryan Selvey quickly jazzed up amazing bold graphics for next Wednesday's file new broadcast, fixing odd glitches. So what we can do here is we can take a quick look at some of the weights. I foolishly got rid of the alphabet. So I know we're pressed for time, so I'm just going to do a few of these. And then we can then look at all of them side by side. We're seeing that get out the poster board for the transitions, right? Oh yeah, wouldn't that be funny? Cometus, how are we feeling about Cometus? You guys into it? You guys lame? You guys like move on to the next one? So we have light, we have bold, we also have regular, and we have black. So there definitely is a strong variety here, but I still would probably only ever use it for a headline, maybe a poster design, but I wouldn't use it in editorial. I wouldn't use it in your body copy, and I wouldn't use it for any UI elements. Kind of going back to our World Cup discussion, right? I don't think that would necessarily land as well. Now this one is definitely for body copy, right? Just kidding. Byte Stencil comes from Troy Lenster, and this is from 2021. On Adobe fonts, it has 2, and this is very obviously a display typeface. You're going to use this for only display. Please never use it for anything else. I do not want to ever see this. I could never read a book with this or a newspaper with this. It says that it is a avant-garde high contrast display stencil. Avant-garde basically always means like you're taking a risk and a chance, and like it's not popular, but you're gonna see where it goes. And it is a stencil typeface characterized by unconventional counter isolation and strategic negative space bisections to the primary optical weights. You say, well, Ryan, what does that mean? It just means it's an edgy, high-fashion stencil font. The letter breaks look like stylish cutouts rather than a warehouse shipping crate. So it is leaning into the ideas of shipping crates, but it can be fun. And they have a run club, which I will never join. For this one, like I said, it has 2 different weights available on Adobe fonts that you have access to. Let's just take a quick look. This one, I believe, is the bold version. And then we'll go here, and I can show you guys the italicized version, which is still bold, but then it kind of has its slant. There you go. And it can read really well kind of on the sides. I mean, it's hard. I mean, especially with lots of words side by side, it's hard to read. But when you look at Surge, or when you look at it's like broken up by word, it works. Oliver says, noted, write a book for Ryan entirely in Byte Stencils. Byte Stencil says, using it for packaging ingredients list. Yes, please. Please, please, please. And Dinah, you like the new update format. Thank you very much. Yes. There was one other suggestion that we had from last week. Is another format to add to it, but I forget what it is. So, it was glyphs. I need to have the glyphs available to pop up. But our last one that we have here is Damson Black, and this is coming from Dalton Mag. It is only available on Adobe fonts as 1 weight, but I believe if you want to go outside of your subscription and you want to buy it yourself, I believe that it is a situation where you can actually have more weights, but don't quote me on that. It definitely is a sans serif, and it definitely is display, and it is decorative in the way that it has these edges. It says that it's a hyperdense display weight humanist sans. Humanist sans pretty much just means that it kind of feels like it was hand drawn in a way, not necessarily like doodles, like doodle fonts, but in the ways that the letter forms are reflective of ways that you would also draw out letters. Then it also says that it features heavily exaggerated incised terminals, modulations, severely restricted apertures, and high impact optical compensation. For the rest of us, you can say that it is a super heavy, punchy font that crams massive strokes into clean shapes, leaving just tiny pockets of white space inside the letters. And like I said, it's only one only one font. So with that, we have all three, and so we only have a few seconds left, really. I had a really cool resource for you guys, but I kind of want to save it because I want to make sure that we give it the time, because it's really cool, and I think it'll work next week. So in the meantime, I guess just what we can do is I'll do one resource, but not the other one. How was that transition? See, now you guys are instantly regretting it. This is Design Buddies, and not to be described with bunnies, even though there's a bunny on it. And it says, find the best design resources and tools, a lovingly curated library of tools, articles, courses, templates, and inspiration for early career UX, UI, and product designers. You can see on here under the icon section, they have the Noun project, which is one of my favorite plugins for Photoshop that I use. And also use it in Illustrator as well. And when you look, you can just sort by different things like career, prototyping, wireframing systems, illustrations, color, accessibility, and that is just available on Design Buddies. But yeah, thank you guys so much for everything this week. Rolling with the punches, especially the crazy technical difficulties after technical difficulties. So I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. Next week, let's quickly talk about next week, actually, before we declare a winner here. I'll give you guys just a few more seconds. I'll put these guys, we'll do this. I'll put these side by side so that these are up while I'm talking. And coming up right after this is CA in LA. But next week, I guess I should put them in order, shouldn't I? Next week, Adobe Live is off all week. And then the following week, Jacob Paris is taking over. So hypothetically, I'm not supposed to be on File New for the next 3 weeks. But I think I'm going to do it next week anyway. Like I said, I get paid to do these. I will not get paid next week. But I love doing it. I love hanging out with you guys. I don't want you guys to have to go very long without it. So I think I'm going to just stream next week at this time. I don't know if it'll be a full hour long, but it will be a thing. If not, I'll do a pre-record. But we'll be back here, same time, same place next week. So with that, I think it is time to declare a winner for our font of the week. So we're going to end the poll, and with 53% of the votes, the winner for this week belongs to TT Cometus by Type. So it wasn't that big of a blowout this week or anything. So it was, you guys kind of liked all three, to be honest, and that all works out. So thank you guys all for being here. Like I said, coming up right after this is CA in LA. Make sure you guys give me a follow on the socials on YouTube. And then also check this out on your favorite podcast service like Spotify or Apple or Overcast or anything. But I'm Ryan Selvey on YouTube. I'm Ryan Selvey on Instagram. And I'm Ryan Selvey on TikTok. So please go ahead and check that out. Make sure you like this video before you leave. Thank you, Alyssa, for the reminder. And thank you for everyone who just hung out and was good spirits, because I needed that. And I appreciate you guys. Have a great one, and I will see you all next week. Bye. Oh, yeah, and there's not going to be any boop, 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 file new.